Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the DoubleClutch.ca podcast. I'm your host, Nick, managing editor, and I'm in studio with Nathan today. We got some...
Can you be quiet? I'm trying to do something here.
What are you trying to do? Aside from podcast?
I'm trying to build my press vehicle on Polestar's print configurator thingy, which is actually really nice.
Ah. Shouldn't you know that info by heart at this point?
No, that's how you and I both figured this shit out, is we just go in the company's builder and just build the car to what we see in the parking lot.
This is true.
We're actually not very well supported in Canada. Like, we can reach out and ask, but I don't know if we're going to get it.
Doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
You kind of have to guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so this week we have a bunch of electric vehicles on the docket for this week's episode. Nathan is in the Polestar 3 this week. I do not have a vehicle this week, but I did spend a meaningful amount of time with the Cadillac Lyriq last week. Nathan, you also checked out the Lamborghini Temerario.
Yeah.
Last week, so that was kind of cool, getting a little sneak peek at their Huracan successor. And if we have time, we'll touch on the Kona EV and Ford E-Transit.
I really like the A-Transit.
It was kind of... Should we just start with that?
Let's start with that, because I really enjoyed that.
Me too.
So, last week, I was supposed to be in a 2025 Nissan Rogue.
Which you were also looking forward to. What the hell?
I actually had a plan for that, yeah, because it's like, this is roughly around the time that I started with you guys, and my first press car was a Nissan Rogue, so I was going to do a bit that actually had very little to do with the Rogue. It was just a rant about the industry. I had a plan for this. And that was taken away from me because someone smashed it up.
Not us.
Because... I don't know. That's just what happens to those things.
That's just how these things
work.
All
these things. There's been a few smashed up press cars this year.
Actually, yeah.
But never by us, because we're the best.
Yeah.
So our fleet provider, we reached out to them. Hey, what else do you guys got? And we got a Ford E-Transit electric cargo van.
Yeah, it was either that or a Mach-E, which we've driven a million times.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
It's just something different.
Give me the van.
Yeah, so that kind of became our errand running vehicle around the office / shop.
Yeah, and it was excellent at that.
I bet.
You took it to run errands?
I did. I literally did.
You stole it to go get a vanity.
I did, and tiles too for my basement reno.
Yeah.
God, it's so practical.
I really like it.
Yeah,
it's very good. I think it makes a lot of sense. My whole thing with it was that so it only has 250 kilometers range, 256 kilometers range with a low roof. It's available in long or extended long with the low, medium, high roof.
Yep.
Even the high roof, it takes a very modest range hit of it goes down to 230 from 256 peak kilometers. It has a new 89 kilowatt hour battery pack that's better able to... Well, it can take a DC fast charge.
Yep. It
can level 2 charge much faster, and it can deliver sustained loads, say, on the highway with a high roof.
Yeah.
Much more efficiently.
Yeah.
Beyond that, for so many businesses that depend on just being in town, my whole thing was the brewery. I used to work at a brewery.
Yep.
We had 2 vans. It was a clapped out Ford Econoline E250 and a Chevy Savannah 2500. They were both beat to shit. We spent $20,000 or more a year in fuel.
God.
Before oil changes, before brakes, before 70 transmission rebuilds.
Yeah.
Because all they did was sit in traffic.
Yeah.
And something like this, for that kind of business, and there's a lot of them, makes a lot of sense.
It does, and especially the running costs alone that you save is it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. So next to a gas Ford Transit, a comparably spec'd one would be about, I think it was about an $8,000 or $9,000 delta between this and the electric one. And in the case of our business, we'd make up that fuel savings in a year.
Wow.
Not including maintenance running costs, just gas alone, we make it up on one van within a year.
Wow.
So there's kind of a case for that. And then for just doing random shit, putzing around in town, EVs are actually way, way better.
Yeah, it's actually kind of pleasant. Obviously being a cargo van, you know, the absence of engine noise means you focus on wind noise and road noise much more than you would normally.
And it's very well controlled.
It actually is.
Yeah. And like it's just smoother, it's easier to drive.
Mm-hmm.
It has like some basic niceties like adaptive cruise and surround view monitors. And
I was very surprised to see that, especially adaptive cruise control.
yeah.
Like, kind of, wow.
Well, like it's a nice quality of life thing for the guy who's going to be spending 40 hours a week in that van. Like,
Yeah.
he's less fatigued and perhaps more productive. Yeah. I remember doing delivery days in the clapped out Savannah. It was the worst ever. And the Econoline was even worse. And this would be so much less dreary.
Yeah, imagine doing that now with like a big touchscreen, CarPlay. You got your music going.
Yeah.
You don't have you have a nice, serene, quiet electric powertrain to sort of take away help melt away the stress.
Yeah. And it's like actually quite pleasant to drive. It's, I don't know, steering's well weighted. Like it doesn't feel like a boat. It just it drives kind of like a minivan that happens to be bigger.
I also didn't find visibility to be much of a challenge in it, considering like,
No, like
size are,
I mean, like all cargo vans are kind of the same.
oh yeah.
But like the fact that it has surround view
Yeah.
is a really nice addition.
And it was pretty easy to see out of it too, just like the three forward facing windows. It's like, well, the one forward facing plus two side windows. It's even visibility out of there is really good. It's pretty easy to like see where the corners are without having to resort to the 360 cam.
That's the thing. I hardly use the 360 cam. I could just trust the mirrors.
Yeah.
And it's
Massive mirrors too.
and that's kind of a necessity when you have no windows.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I've actually driven a lot of cargo vans. So in that sense, it's pretty unextraordinary.
Yeah.
But for just not feeling like a massive clunky piece of shit, it's incredible. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's starts at 72 grand. And not to say that it's the perfect tool for every job. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like if you're on the highway a lot, you're covering a lot of distance, like, yeah, no bueno, don't do this. But for so many like just urban delivery or service call vans, these things are great. And they're a lot cheaper than the Ram ProMaster EV and the Mercedes E-Sprinter, like a lot cheaper. I think like 10 and 15 grand cheaper to start.
Oof.
Something like that.
Wow. Isn't the ProMaster? Oh no, sorry, that's a ProMaster City that's smaller. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, really good van. I was actually, you and I are both like quite taken with it.
Yeah, kind of remind me of a simpler life if I had gone into the trades as opposed to pursuing a journalism degree. But that's a discussion for another day.
Mr. Journalism Man, so I'm going to tell you about where you were driving last week.
I was in another electric people mover. Well, it's more of a people mover as opposed to a thing mover, which is what the E-Transit was. I was in the 2025 Cadillac Lyriq Sport 3, and I specifically called dibs on this because I really liked it last year when I stole it off you for the weekend.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, it was pretty great. I want more.
Yeah.
And I got more, and I was like, this is still pretty great.
It might be the best vehicle Cadillac makes right now.
I think so. It just... I mean, just like based on looks alone, those things have presence.
They look great. They wear the Ultium shape, like there's like the very wide Ultium platform very well.
They do. I feel like I want to say the Acura ZDX and the Cadillac Lyriq probably look, of all the Ultium crossovers vehicles so far,
they're the toughest.
I think those two look the best.
Yeah, they look pretty great. They got a lot of presence. I remember last year when they started popping up all over the place. Like, I guess you're doing deliveries now. Like, just crank them out and start showing up.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I find that sort of tapered off, but I still see a good number of
a good amount of them, yeah.
More so than Passports and Blazer EVs.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's well, I'm not going to say it shouldn't be. It's not a surprise because it looks nice. I thought it drove very nice. Mm-hmm. I think the range is very competitive. It's like, 500 kilometers, my memory serves? Or like high fours?
High fours.
Yeah.
Obviously being a little on the chillier side. I mean, we are coming out of winter. So I got better range than I expected.
Okay.
But obviously not like... I still wasn't able to crack the 400 mark.
Really? And you ran it down?
I ran up. I was practically running on electron fumes by the time I got it back to the... But by the time I returned it, so I started the week with roughly 450 kilometers showing up on board, like 450, 460, and I got about 375 kilometers out of it,
Okay.
which is not bad.
No.
Like, it was what, 80-kilometer difference?
Well, also because
thereabouts?
like your use case is not conducive to EVs because you do a lot of highway.
I do a lot of yeah, and especially if it's a day where you don't get a lot of stop and go, then you're basically you don't have that regen to sort of put some of the energy back in the battery. But yeah, I'd say like 375 kilometers, while it's still somewhat cold out, it's better than expected. It's better than what I would have expected.
Quick backtrack. You know what's better than expected?
What?
It's the e-Transit. The range calculator was actually like dead nuts accurate down to the kilometer, despite doing all highway.
Interesting.
Like I was actually, that's one of the few occasions where I actually like tracked mileage and use out of it.
Yeah.
Dead accurate. Like perfectly dead linear. I couldn't believe how good it was.
Well, I remember. Well, I imagine if you're someone in the trades, someone out on a delivery, you kind of want to know exactly down to the kilometer how far you need to go and how far you can go.
Yeah, I was very impressed to see that. Anyway, sorry, proceed.
Yeah. All right. Other things I liked about it, I liked how it looks. Range was decent. Looks great. So here's an interesting thing. Addy mentioned, and we both know Addy has a tendency to steal our press cars, take them for a rip.
Yep.
Addy mentioned that it wasn't that he couldn't quite find a comfortable seating position, and I thought I was alone in thinking that last year. It turns out I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who thinks that way.
I felt the same thing. I couldn't get 100% there. I was always kind of fiddling with it.
What was it for you?
I don't remember. I also forgot you stole it from me. I don't remember very well.
Fair enough.
I remember generally liking it and that it drove well.
Yeah.
And it performed surprisingly well. But wasn't trying too hard to be sporty, and I like that about it.
Yeah. It sort of like embraces its, it sort of embraces its comfort.
Embrace the chill.
Yeah.
Don't pretend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found that endearing. Anyway, yeah, I just something about the seating position that I just couldn't quite get right. I hate it when headrests, you can't tilt them forward. And I find for me, it was the headrest that sort of not quite ruined the experience, but like, that's what was sort of preventing me from getting like super comfortable.
I don't remember. I only vaguely recall like fiddling with it more than usual. Other than that, I think it drove really nice, and it's priced super aggressively.
It's priced very aggressively. Ours is the one I just had was about mid-80s as tested.
Yeah, and I think mine was low mid-90s, like loaded to the gills.
Yeah, you had more stuff.
What did I have that you didn't? I had like AKG and massage and everything.
Did you have heads-up display?
Yep.
I don't think I did.
Did you have adaptive? Adaptive standard, I think, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it had Super Cruise too.
Okay.
But I couldn't quite figure out if it had the cutout for a heads-up display. But
interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out. I couldn't find the setting to turn it on. I could be wrong. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but I did notice. I was like, huh, interesting. No heads-up display.
Odd.
Yeah.
I never even drove it.
We drove it last year.
Yeah. I was too busy with my e-Transit. I really like that van.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, handles great. I really like Super Cruise. Of all the hands-free driving assists, that's probably the most fully baked through.
Yeah, and I feel like it gets better every time I check it out too. Like I've only been in this industry for like 3 years, and I feel like I have a Super Cruise car every like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And every time there's a noticeable step forward. So like it's still getting better, like quickly.
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I had it, I was like, oh, this is pretty good when it works, but like the conditions when it chooses to work are rather limited. And like that's just been expanding more and more and more. Yeah.
Yeah. I was very surprised, like even going through a few construction zones, like I was really surprised at how well it could pick up the painted lines versus the former versus the covered up lines that
Yeah.
used to be painted, it actually did a pretty good job like differentiating that, and it's like, oh wow, you're not asking me to intervene. You're sort of like going through this on your own.
Yeah.
I think
Whereas before it would have asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It only asked me to intervene through a construction zone once,
Okay.
which I thought was pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
All right, cool. You fucking very smart system.
Yeah. Well, I remember even on my first one, it was a 22 Sierra Denali with Super Cruise. And I remember being on the phone with my mom, our best listener,
Yep.
driving from my place in Etobicoke to IKEA Burlington. And I was on the phone with her, getting a massage, and I didn't touch the steering wheel the entire trip for 45 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
Yep. I believe it.
Okay, but you wanted this thing for yourself.
Yep.
What did you want out of it?
I just want to spend more time with it.
Okay.
I really,
But why? What were you looking for with the Cadillac Lyriq that enticed you so much when you last had it and stole it from me?
I wanted to see how it would have aged over the year or so between having the last one.
Right.
And I think it's aged well.
Okay.
Like the interior especially is just like, it's just so, it feels great.
It's really nice. It's very classy. It's a very classy implementation of like GM's new design language.
Yeah. Doesn't go too heavy-handed on the tech. There's a good mix of like quality materials. Everything feels nice.
Yeah.
There's nice metallic accents to like break up the sea of black. I will say I kind of liked your spec last year better.
What was yours this year? Yours was gray on what?
Silver on gray. Silver on black.
I see. Right. Yeah. Mine was more genteel, red on tan. Yeah.
Very classy. Something else I didn't notice about last year's was there must have been this being the this running a Google-based operating system. Much ado has been made about GM ditching Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
Cadillac still has it.
It still has it.
I think it's just Chevrolet that dropped it.
Yeah. So the Lyriq still has it, but I guess I don't know if it's tied to my iOS updates or the car itself, but the infotainment now, if you're running Waze or something and you're connected to CarPlay, it'll take what you're running on the app and displays the map in the gauge cluster.
Interesting.
Off your phone.
That's really impressive.
That is incredible. I wish more cars did.
There's like hardly any cars that do that, especially with like off-brand. Like not to say that Waze is weird, but like it's usually only like the Google Nav or Apple Maps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To see that it's like integrated Waze that well is super impressive.
Oh yeah, I was like,
I would never have found that out.
Whoa, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah,
but like by and large, I think it's held up well. It's still a very attractive car. It still drives. It still drives well, and now also having the opportunity to like kind of run down the range in like slightly chillier weather. It's like
it actually works.
It actually works.
Yeah.
It actually works as a car.
That's really nice. Yeah, it's a really successful implementation of like Cadillac design language. And that whole refined air and tech, like it's a really good marriage, like a really successful product.
It's a good jumping off point for the Optic. We have the Optic and the Escalade IQ coming up in late May.
That's right. I was going to ask you about that. Did I see a gas Escalade on that in that press email too?
Yes.
Give it to me.
Imran called dibs. It's his birthday that week.
Fine.
It's Imran's birthday week. He can have the Escalade.
Okay, fine.
But
I want it.
Too bad. You're getting your birthday press card next week.
It's not my birthday.
Well, too bad.
What the fuck?
But yeah, I mean, like the Lyriq, it's held up well, and if that's the jumping off point for the for the Optic, the Celestiq, the Escalade IQ, then, we're off to a pretty great start.
Pretty good start, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Speaking of EVs,
you actually got a sneak peek last week at something kind of cool.
that's not where I was going with this transition, but we'll go with that. Okay.
Sorry, what were you going for?
Well, because I said EVs, right? And the thing I looked at was not an EV; it's a PHEV.
Right.
I was going to go to the thing that I'm in that is also a mid-sized, just luxury crossover electric vehicle.
Oh,
right. Remember that?
That makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. But since you've already led into
no, let's do your thing. Do your thing.
Which thing? They're both my thing. Pick a thing.
The EV one, not the PHEV.
Copy. So this week...
Okay, let's try this transition again.
You fucking...
God, I completely fucked this up. So,
speaking of EVs, which are mid-size-ish, luxury, sporty, crossover type deals...
Yes.
You fucking goof. I am in the... I keep wanting to say Volvo. It's not. I am in the Polestar 3. It is a brand new electric crossover by Volvo's sub-brand, offshoot brand, Polestar. I think it rides on a very similar platform to the EX90, if not the same.
From what I understand, that is correct.
I believe it's the same powertrain, or same-ish powertrain.
Yep.
This one is loaded to the gills with the performance pack and tech pack and everything else. I think it looks pretty good. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, to be honest. What do you think about it?
Well, I've spent even less time with it. I'm not big on the side profile view. I think that Hunchback is a little awkward looking.
It's definitely kind of, pardon me, it's definitely kind of funny looking, but very futuristic, cool guy. Neat looking, but not. It's not. It doesn't lean too far into it. It's not gimmicky.
Yeah. It's a tasteful take on the whole EV futurism thing. Which is kind of Polestar's thing.
It's kind of Polestar's thing. I think I would like it a lot more if it was not white. I can see that thing looking really nice in a silver.
Yep.
Yeah. But beyond that, it's very low slung for what is supposed to be an SUV. It's very low slung. It's quite wide. It looks compact, but it's not.
I think that's what really surprised me the most of it. I was kind of expecting something maybe a little bigger than a Polestar 2, but not
quite a bit larger.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that much larger.
And also on gigantic 22-inch wheels with huge gold brakes behind them. The thing looks tough. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Inside, I was surprised to see this because in the past, Volvo and Polestar have used separate software, and Volvo software has been kind of up and down, generally fine, but we have our opinions about it. The Polestar software has been snuck up on me out of nowhere last year. Was actually some of the best software ever used in a car. And for this new vehicle, they have followed Volvo's direction by switching over to a gigantic 12, 13-inch portrait tablet running a Polestar skinned version of Android Automotive. It is functionally the same thing as Google software with a big map on the home screen and context-sensitive shortcuts and stuff. And the interior design theme follows the whole, we saw in the Volvo EX30 a couple weeks ago, ultra minimalism. Yeah. Not stark like Tesla, but just super clean, no buttons, everything's on the screen. And even things like the steering wheel controls. There are physical rocker buttons there, but they're not marked.
That tripped me up.
Yeah. They only show up. I just had to explain this to you. There's no markings on the buttons at all.
Yep.
When you hover your thumb over them, it shows up in the little itty bitty gauge cluster. Yep. Kind of like the Mach-E. It's a very small, thin thing. And it shows up on the screen. And it's context sensitive based on whatever you're doing. So the left side, you were saying, does the left not work? The left is for the cruise control. If you're not in cruise, it doesn't show up.
Yeah. That's probably why I took it around the block real quick. In most cars, you at least know what those buttons are for, even if you hover over them on the contact sensitive touch panel. For instance, Lexus, they do the same thing. And no matter whether or not, and no matter if you have adaptive cruise on or off, it doesn't necessarily have to be working. You can still, tap buttons and, the pop-up will still show up in the heads-up display on Lexus vehicles.
Yeah.
So what tripped me up with this one...
That it didn't show anything.
It didn't show anything.
So you just thought it wasn't working.
I just thought it was which I wouldn't necessarily put it past the Polestar 3 because, there have been certain, certain instances in the past where we've kind of experienced bugs with like Volvo's tech interface.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you for that. I find overall it generally works quite well. The system itself is it's all very snappy. It's very slick. It's nicely animated. It's pretty easy to figure out if some things are maybe a touch convoluted.
Yeah.
But I like that there's good on-screen shortcuts. One pedal is on screen all the time. Yep. Performance mode is on screen all the time. Climate's on screen. It's all pretty nice and easy to figure out. But being so minimalist, the seat controls it's just a 4-way rocker with a button to swap through the different settings. So this is fore and aft, this is for lumbar and tilt, this is for side adjustment, this is for massage. So you're constantly cycling through little menus to get things done. And like on the EX30, the mirror adjustments and the steering wheel adjustment, there's no buttons for it. It's just you go into it through the touchscreen and then adjust it via buttons on the steering wheel. It's all very, very screen based, very tech forward. A tiny bit much. I've come around to your opinion. I really liked it. I don't know how this happened. I really, really liked it in the EX90 launch event last year.
Yeah.
And then in my experiences with it since, I've liked it less.
The hilarious thing is, I actually like this application maybe a touch more than the EX30.
It's much better than the EX30.
Yeah.
Because it has a gauge cluster.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes all the fucking difference.
So I think even a little baby screen, the screen does a lot of heavy lifting.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the EX30s, that whole setup where you cram everything on the home screen, I find that was it leans into the whole minimalism thing. Yes, from a design perspective, but from an interface perspective, there's just a lot going on screen all the time.
And the constant warnings to look at the road when you have to look away from the road. It just seemed really counterintuitive.
Yeah. But the central screen makes all the difference in the so very much like the Mach-E, just to kind of paint a picture. So this it's not even a big screen. It's not a big traditional gauge cluster. It's just a little tiny floating screen that's very wide, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall, and 4 or 5 inches across. That's it. And that can be configured to show a map, basic speed and power usage. And the biggest one being that all Polestar 3s, like the Volvo EX90, ship with a LiDAR array in the windshield that super accurately sees traffic, and it predicts traffic and lines and curves in the road and puts it all on that little display in front of you. So you can we like that, having that feedback of knowing what the car is thinking when we're trusting the car to drive itself. And this does drive itself pretty well. Yep. Nailed it. For me, having all that information is fine and dandy, but with the EX30s, it just they convey the same information, but having all that right there in front of you as opposed to further away
on an already busy screen,
a very, very small rectangle on a very busy screen. That's you almost dwell on that central screen for a bit longer, and obviously that
and then it trips the attention monitor and makes the car upset.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you're upset at the car because you were just looking at the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Polestar 3 doesn't do that.
Yeah. But let's not get too weeded down on this. Otherwise, the interior is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And especially the sporty accents on this one. I normally really can't do white interiors, but this two-tone white and black thing works with the gold seat belts. To kind of denote its performanciness.
Yeah.
It's super comfortable. There's tons of room. Like, the thing drives beautifully.
It does.
And it's very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick. So this is the performance pack one with like, I think 511, a little over 500 horsepower.
Gets out of its way.
It gets out of its own way
Absolutely.
very, very effectively, especially when everything is set to like performance mode, and that there's so many settings. You can set like steering weight, you can set suspension feel, you can set power delivery. You can really like tweak it how you want it to be, and no matter what you do with it, it's pretty good.
Does it do an individual mode? Like where you can...
I don't think there's like a set, like an M mode.
Right.
But it's easy enough to tweak because you have one pedal and performance just kind of set on the home screen, and everything else can be dialed in via the little drive menu thing.
I did like that it doesn't default to the whole neck snapping insta torque thing by default.
But it will do it, and it will do it very well.
It does it.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, it does it.
Yeah. And the range on it's pretty good too. I think like not this one because it is the performance dual motor. It can do a little over 500 max estimated range. I think this one is in the 450 range, 450 or 480, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not the best journalist in the world. But pretty good, pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it looks cool. I don't know, I love the color, but it looks cool. It drives great. There's tons of room. The tech is, I think it'll grow on me. I think this kind of car is very poorly tailored to our line of work, right? For someone who's getting in it, setting it, living with it, and forgetting about having to change these settings all the time.
Yep.
I think it's going to work really well.
Yeah, because...
But it's annoying for us.
Right. Because people, most people adjust the mirrors once. They set their seat once. They set their radio station presets once.
Yeah, and that's it. And this is the way that's supposed to work. So, like, it's kind of a problem for us because the car hasn't been configured for the owner. And because it hasn't been configured for the owner, I can't set it up on the Polestar app. But the way it is supposed to work is that you can tie different profiles to different keys. So there's a little fob thing. There's like a credit card looking thing. But the way it's supposed to work, it's supposed to be just an app on your phone.
Yep.
And it senses the phone and uses that as the key. And when it senses the profile, whether it's mine or yours, it will set everything to the way you left it based on that profile. Like when we were at the EX90 event, they didn't give us keys; they gave us iPhones. Here's the key. So this is supposed to work the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like for someone living with the car, I think its implementation of tech actually can work quite well. And I'm curious to see how I feel about it at the end of the week because this is definitely way more effectively fleshed out than the EX30.
Yeah, I think so too. And back to the EX, and like touching on the EX30 again, I feel like when I picture Volvo leaning more into minimalism, not just because it's pivoting to full EVs, but because that's typically what the suite's like. I think this is the sense of Swedish minimalism in the Polestar 3 that I had in mind that Volvo would chase with their cars, as opposed to what they did with the EX30.
Yeah, this is what the EX90 is like. The interface in the EX90 is like almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised that they just copied it. Because in the past they've gone different directions. Similar, but different directions. This is a straight copy. It's just black instead of white. So when the EX90 shows up, it's this. And that's why I said I liked it. Because it generally works quite well.
Yeah.
And yeah. The whole marketing shtick is that it's the electric SUV that drives like a sports car. Fucking it does. It drives really well.
Yeah.
And then to bring back the comparison to the EX30, how it's more, it's also twice as much money.
Yeah. Twice as big too, but also
it's way bigger, way more power. Like it's a lot more car. This one, I'm not 100% sure. It starts at 96 for the launch edition, and mine with the dual motor, with the bigger battery, with the performance pack, with the huge brakes and more power and like everything. This thing is and the 25 speaker Bowers and Wilkins audio system, which is incredible. 122 grand.
How much is a comparable EX90?
About the same.
Okay. So you
I don't remember off the top of my head, but about the same. Maybe a tick less.
So if you want a big electric Volvo, you can kind of go two ways. You can go 2-row and performance-y, or 3 rows and
just a big comfy boat.
Big comfy boat.
But the big comfy boat handles really well. They drive. I think that's why I said I think they're the same platform, because they drive very similarly.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously more dynamic focused.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a really good platform.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah, curious to see if I still like it or hate it at the end of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, that takes us to the end. That basically wraps us our thoughts on the Polestar 3, unless you have something else.
I haven't driven it very much, so I can't speak very much to it other than that in my short time with it. I like it so far, outside of my concerns about tech.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And then the other thing.
The other thing that I damn near fucking ruined. All right. Nathan, what'd you look at last week?
Last week I looked at a car.
That's usually what we do every week, though.
So this one, I went downtown to look at a car that was indoors at a private launch event. We were actually very, very fortunate to have been invited to the 2026 Lamborghini Temerario's Canadian reveal event. And ahead of the evening launch party thing, where 300 people gather in a room and watch someone pull a curtain off a car to dramatic music. Also, the party was incredible. Actually, like, this setup was beautiful.
You sent me a video of their chandeliers that were actually people.
Yeah, it was like a lady in like a bejazzled suit dancing on wires over the bar. I didn't even realize it for a minute. I'm like, what is the chandeliers people?
Was the food good at least?
Oh, it was outstanding. It was incredible. And then I didn't realize the music was being provided by a band. And the centerpiece of the band was a guy playing a saxophone, but he was behind like a screen with a projector behind him.
Yeah.
So it was just a silhouette being projected onto the screen. That's the music.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Really, like, actually really cool event. But
Art.
Ahead of that event, I got to spend half an hour with the CEO of Lamborghini North America.
Cool.
Andrea Baldi. Just went over the car and kind of talked about sort of its genesis and then the goals with the car. And it was actually like a really like interesting, illuminating discussion. And I can't speak enough like how enormously privileged we are to have been invited to that, and for me to have had that man's ear for half an hour.
Yeah,
is like, you sure? Me? Really? Why? This must be some mistake. But yeah, it was really cool.
So the Temerario is Cliff's Notes for Nathan's mom.
Yes.
The Temerario is basically their Huracan successor, and it's kind of a big deal.
It is kind of a very big deal. So this is like their new, I was going to say baby, but it can't be baby. And no one would answer this, but there's got to be something that slots in under it, because this car is so ridiculously over the top that it's hard to call this entry level. So this is their new smaller-ish sports supercar thing. It starts at 432,000 Canadian. It uses a new 4-liter V8 engine that's developed in-house, has no relation to the Audi engine, much to my surprise. And he actually addressed that. He's like, yeah, in the past there were synergies with the Volkswagen group about how I don't know why I'm doing a German accent. But like, we've shared stuff before. This is ours.
Yep.
And it's paired with a plug-in hybrid system, and to meet new European emissions regulations. But yeah, combined output is over 900 horsepower, 300 more than the outgoing car, which is kind of a jump.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have exactly called the outgoing Huracan slow.
No. I also thought it was rather brisk in its performance.
You could say that.
Yeah, it got out of its own way rather handily, and this is going to disappear. The engine itself is kind of the big talking point of this car, and I think I know I mentioned this in the review of it, but I don't know if I said it on the podcast. But I really appreciate that Lamborghini is very aware of how much love the old Huracan's V10 has and like its high revving, screaming, like just like very musical character is so important to the experience of the car. And one of the things that was very heavily impressed upon me, both by Mr. Baldi and Francesco Albano, the head of product marketing, there's a big promise at Lamborghini that every car has to be more, so much more than the last one. And it's being more is more than being fast. It has to be more everything, more sound, more theater, more exhilarating. It's not just about being fast. So the highlight feature with the new powertrain they've developed is that this engine can rev to 10,000 RPM, and it is the highest revving production engine ever.
That is wild.
Yeah. I think
10K.
10,000
PM.
The last one was wacky, crazy, at 8,500.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You can't do that. That's nuts. And for this one, now being turbocharged, typically in cases like that, like turbocharging and direct injection are not super conducive to being very high revving. And we see this a lot, right? Where an engine gets replaced with a new boosted engine, and it's just not as rev happy because it can't be. It's not well suited to it. And for this one, they said, fuck it, let's just do it anyway. And one of the things they're big on is like, we were able to go so extreme with the engine and with the turbos because we had the hybrid setup to fill in the torque that's definitely not there now, because to get this engine to rev and make power at 10 grand, there's absolutely nobody home below like 4,000.
I almost want to drive it just for the old school fucking turbo lag.
Yeah,
just the engine alone.
But that's the thing. It won't / shouldn't have turbo lag because they're two very big turbos. I couldn't get any specific figures on what peak boost is, but they're huge. And on any other application, it would take forever to spool up and be an undrivable disaster. But they can use the electric torque fill from the hybrid system to iron that out. And the turbos themselves are variable vane, so they can open, close, and spool up relatively quickly and give like a linear surge of power.
Yep.
Instead of just counting out steamboats until a turbo smack on and send you off into a corner, into a wall.
Yeah, well, that's fun.
To a point.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, it's really cool that they've pushed the envelope, like really pushed what's like mechanically possible with this engine. It makes like almost 800 horsepower on its own.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then 140 more come in from the electric motors. And it borrows the Corvette E-Race setup where there's no drive shaft anymore. It's just an electric motor on the front axle. So it's electric all-wheel drive, so even more instantaneous torque. And through all this, despite making the car larger, like actually much larger, it's surprisingly how big this car is. It's like 9 inches larger, 3 inches longer, 3 inches wider. It's a much bigger car.
The proportions looked very Huracan-like in your pictures,
it's
at least.
Instantly recognizable as a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
It's like same-ish kind of silhouette, the same like fighter pilot cockpit, like very familiar, but it's a lot bigger. Despite being bigger and a hybrid and having a battery and being so much more powerful, it's 40, 50 kilograms heavier? I think 150 pounds heavier, yeah.
Than the Huracan.
Yeah, than a base all-wheel drive Huracan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They really put in the work with this thing.
They
Holy
really
shit.
put in the work. They tried to shave weight out wherever they could. And one of the biggest advantages, and this goes back to the whole thing of like, okay, we have to make this car like a hybrid to get through like European emissions testing. We have to. We don't have a choice. But let's make the most of it. And in making the most of it, they could make the wackiest engine ever and could also shave a lot of weight by getting rid of the whole like front differential, transfer case. All the hardware that used to make the car all-wheel drive is gone. It's replaced by one motor now.
It's great.
So they could like, let's make the best of this. And I didn't get to hear the thing start or anything. These are pre-production cars, but they look great. They feel familiar, and I'm super, super looking forward to getting to actually check one of these out, because that powertrain is wild, and no one else has gone there. And part of their thing was like, we want to do something that no one else could do. Yeah. Kind of as part of a conquest from Ferrari and McLaren.
10,000 RPM.
10,000.
God, that's a fucking screamer.
Yeah. 0 to 60 in like 2.7 seconds and 211 miles an hour, something bonkers like that.
Fast.
Yeah.
10,000
RPMs. It's like
Jesus.
peak power at 9750. Like it needs to rev.
Insane.
Yeah.
It wants you to rev it out.
Yeah.
It wants to be revved out.
Yeah, it's crazy
Fuck.
how far they were able to go with this engine.
Yeah.
Like this kind of engine was not possible. Like mechanically impossible in a road car with a warranty.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago. It's crazy what they did with it.
Wild.
Yeah, super looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been like monologuing for the last 10 minutes. Any questions for me? Something I forgot to mention?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Temerario. Like it's a very impressive piece of engineering, and it seems like Lamborghini really did put in work to make it what it is.
Yeah, like really smashed it out. Because one of the things that they brought up was motorsport influence.
Yeah.
And Lamborghini has not traditionally had motorsport influence. They've just been about making super flexy, ridiculous road cars.
It wasn't really until the Huracan that they got a little more serious about it.
Yeah, the Huracan was the first car that they had that was like actually fast on a track. Actually a successful track car that could go very, very fast and put down a good lap time. Like Lamborghinis have always been fast, among the fastest cars in the world, but when it comes to race car fast and making fast times around a circuit, they've never been very strong until the Huracan. So they're taking the lessons that they learned from taking the Huracan racing and bringing it back to this car and trying to make a car that's faster, more engaging, and simultaneously appealing to buyers that they've picked up from the Urus SUV and conquesting from the other Italians and the British and keeping their existing clientele base happy as they mature. And yeah, it's a very, very wacky car with very mature ambitions that I didn't expect to... I wouldn't have thought to hear from a company known for being so over the top ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make the Temerario. They're really trying to make it appeal to pretty much everyone, and
that's usually a bad idea.
But it seems like they made it work.
I mean, we'll know when we drive it, but so far as we can tell this far, well, looks like it's going to be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. 10,000 RPM.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That
Volcanoes.
is wild. And that pretty much takes us to the end of our episode.
Okay.
I don't know, do you want to we have maybe a couple of minutes we can divert to the Kona EV if you really wanted to. It's more of a footnote, really.
It's a really nice little car.
Yeah. So, context for this footnote, John has a 2025 Kona EV in the garage this week. It's
Hyundai's subcompact crossover SUV type thing.
Yeah.
He had like a semi-loaded one last year.
He had the gas one, yeah. He had the gas one last year.
I shot it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Very contentious, futuristic, perhaps too futuristic styling.
On the outside, yeah. I actually really like the interior.
The interior is very nice.
There's a lot of hard touch plastics.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't feel cheap. It still feels solid. It still feels well made. And, Hyundai hasn't... They still care about things like ergonomics.
They haven't missed a beat. They've always been very, very clear about their commitment to making things simple, livable by use of just logically laid out buttons and stuff.
Yeah. It looks very futuristic.
No guessing, no buried menus. Just gets in, go, and it works.
That's exactly it.
And
it does look fairly, futuristic, postmodern, weird for the sake of weird from the outside. But inside, it's a nice space.
It's very nice. Very reminiscent of the Ioniq 5, actually.
Yeah.
Not the same, but reminiscent. The same, mildly futuristic, but just very contemporary, clean design language.
Yeah.
It kind of shows, this is how you can make a car that looks neat and looks more expensive than it actually is, and looks very modern without being gimmicky.
Yes. And it'll age well, I think.
I think so.
The interior will.
Yeah.
The interior well. I don't think any Kona has aged well visually, but the interior on this newest one is actually, it's quite a nice space.
Yeah, very nicely executed.
Works.
It drives surprisingly well. And good range, and I actually don't know, but I'm assuming it's pretty competitively priced, knowing Hyundai.
Yeah, John mentioned he's started with 350-ish, but not at a full charge, and he's only down to like 270 kilometers.
Yeah,
so far. It's put quite a few miles on it, but yeah, that's Kona EV in a nutshell.
Yep, good little car.
All right, that takes us to the end of this week's episode.
Yeah, this was sorry we haven't been super active lately. It's just been kind of sort of quiet around here.
Very spotty availability, plus our cars haven't been that noteworthy lately.
Yeah, and scheduling's been a mess.
Yeah, schedule's been tough, but Imran should be back next week, so, and he's driven a bunch of cool stuff, so I imagine we're going to have a couple of Imran episodes coming up.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, and we'll try to have Callie on more too to kind of
yeah.
just ask us questions, because she's good at that.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. All right. That's about it. For those who wish to keep tabs on our automotive misadventures, you can do so at doubleclutch.ca on socials. Yeah. In the meantime,
that about wraps us up. Thanks for listening, guys.
You want to do the thing?
No, you do the thing.
Okay.
I can't do the thing. It's my mom. You do the thing.
Fair enough. And last but not least, thanks for listening, Nathan's mom.